Okay, thank you. First of all, I will thank to our panelists today because we have a very, very interesting discussion today, and it's related to, well, challenges of domestic and foreign IT software development companies in Croatia in general. So we have a few, I would say, candidates that can present us their situation at work, and they can present us their companies. So the first one is Krešimir Kondža. He's head of software development at King ICT. The second one is Domagoj Madunić. He's CEO at Agency 04. They presented themselves on this lightning talk. The third one is Tomislav Kosanović. He's business development and partnering director at HT or HT. Ivo Ugrina is CTO at SweetPay Financial Tech Sweden, and Robert Ilijaš is director in Identyum consortium. Okay, so please, guys, firstly, let's start with 2 sentences. Let's try to present your company. What do you do during your working hours? So to present your focus of your company to the audience, please.
Hi, everyone. So SweetPay basically is a company providing financial services. And in Croatia, we are building a branch which is basically providing technical support and technical development for the company in Sweden.
Thanks, Io. Identyum consortium is a startup, early age startup that focuses on digital onboarding and digital profiles, digital identity profiles, as well as digital signature of documents. So it basically handles your identity in a secure way online.
Thanks. My name is Tomislav Kosanović. I am from Croatian Telecom. Croatian Telecom is leading telecom operator in Croatia. In our group we have several companies: Iskon, Croatian Telecom, Kombis. Kombis is one of the leading ICT companies in Croatia also.
Thank you. My name is Domagoj Madunić. I'm from Agency 04. Agency 04, as the name states, is a full-fledged agency. Our technological axis is basically Java development, but we provide our services to our customers in Europe, both in terms of mobile development, single-page applications development, quality engineering, automation testing, and thus we provide a full package to our dear customers.
Hello, King ICT is a leading Croatian system integrator, which means that we provide full service to our customers, starting with hardware and following up with software. We also have a big custom software development department, some of you which are part of.
Okay, thank you. You can keep the mic for a minute. So we are witnesses that a large number of software development left Croatia in search of better jobs in the EU, and and the more interesting ones and with the higher salaries. That is also very, very important to mention. At the same time, there are many companies from the EU that open subsidiaries and branch offices companies in Croatia. So, guys, what do you think? Why is Croatia so attractive to EU companies, and why do they open subsidiaries here in Zagreb, especially in Croatia? So, anyone?
Well, from my personal experience, Croatian market developers in Croatia are well educated, well motivated. So this is the reason why we are so interested to the outside companies. I have some experience in the region, and I can say that it's not like that. The level of knowledge and the level of motivation just isn't like here. And the wages are lower than in Germany or Ireland and so on. So we are attractive market.
Okay. Do you agree with Domagoj?
Hi. I mean, this is the general narrative that Croatia is attractive to foreign companies. They come here, open subsidiaries, and so on and so forth. But I'm not that sure, actually. I mean, demography is not on our side. If you want to open a subsidiary and have 1,000 IT experts, are you going to do it in Croatia? You need 500 Java developers. Do you go here, or do you try to search it in Romania, Ukraine, some far bigger countries? So in terms of, scale, we are quite interesting for some size companies. But in terms of, building huge development centers here for 1,000, 2,000 IT experts, I think we actually are not a player in that market.
Thanks. I would agree with my colleague. We are also seeing growth of, let's say, mid-size to small level mid-size companies in Croatia, but I don't see companies like in Bratislava, 4,000 people plus. Our talent pool is very high quality, I would say. Our people working in Deutsche Telekom Group, for example, in Germany are much more capable and much more broader view than, I would say, usually German people. But they're coming in very limited quantity. You know, when you need to hire 50 or even 30 developers, it's a very big problem in Croatia now.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well, basically, I absolutely agree with everything that the guys have said so far. So, high quality people in Croatia with broad view of general life in general, capable of thinking outside the box, while at the same time with not so many resources that the large companies need that want to choose a country where to outsource. And yes, cheaper, obviously, but not that cheaper like it were 5 years ago. So.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to add cheaper and in the same time zone, more or less.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Can we fix this problem? Because we don't have enough developers. So the quality is, I would say, okay, but what about the quantity? So should we do something in our education? Should we, I don't know, do something else?
Appropriation?
Excuse me?
So appropriation maybe?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so basically most of the companies have the same problem. It's not really the companies only, and the countries also. What do you do then? You import people. It's simple as that. So if we don't import people and if we do not do the things that grown-ups do a lot, we can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. So what are your favorite countries for importing new Java developers?
So if you ask me, I really don't care.
Okay.
If they come and they're going to work, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can tell you is that if you look at the region, you're probably going to find more developers, but not that much, which means that we should look outside of the EU.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. I think that Croatia has a great potential that basically we are still not tapping. We have partners in Netherlands. They are a multinational development company, and we organized the Seaside Sprint with them, and that was a huge hit. So, I mean, in terms of where do we want to import developers? I mean, from everywhere. It doesn't matter, you know, if you to reach just to the, let's say, economically poorer countries or less developed countries, you know, in the region, Africa or wherever, Middle East. You know, if you have a good developers, why do not build Croatia as a great IT center in Europe? We have a seaside, we have mountains, we have everything. The country is really beautiful. There is a potential here that we are not using at all. Many people would like to come and live in Croatia. We have a good food, very nice, easygoing lifestyle. So there are many benefits to moving into Croatia.
Okay.
Yes, we're in Croatian Telekom, we're in Deutsche Telekom. I would say we're tackling this problem on 3 different ways. First, we have some operations in Bosnia where we are hiring people locally because of the price of the people there. We're trying to import some workforce from Macedonia, Bosnia, Serbia, etc. And we have now a new concept we will try very soon in 2 months. We call this Acceleration Hub, meaning we are pulling the talents from several markets, from Slovakia, Croatia, Austria, Germany, whatever, into one talent pool plus additional resources from India, believe it or not. And we will try then to make, let's say, some sort of very flexible organization which will be able to deliver any project, any size on any market. From this, these talents are being pulled.
Not in the scale of the things that the guys are talking about, but I also believe that there's like a pretty huge pool of people in Croatia that, you know, are have average intelligence, which I deeply believe is good enough to be an average developer. So, I mean, I know all of you guys are here are above average IQ except me. But I think that not everyone has to be a top developer. I think we also need average developers, and with a focused education that can be reached quite quickly. So I think we have a large pool in Croatia that is not being used, and the educational system is not helping at all. And our parents are not helping with giving us, not me, I'm too old, but maybe younger, for the younger guys, parents are giving wrong advice to young guys. Take security, take company, take large company, take a job with, you know, the government or the agency or blah, blah. It's totally wrong advice for young people. So, you know, I think there is a large pool inside Croatia that's also not being handled well.
Since you all mentioned that, Java developers from abroad are very interesting to you. So, how do you handle this remote work with remote teams? Obviously, you don't hire people from other countries and have them on site because there are many obstacles in that way. So, how do you handle this remote work, especially if they are working on the same project?
I just wanted to share one story with you. This is not directly connected to this question, but to the remark from my colleague. Recently, I met one company from Slavonia who is now hiring developers from high school, literally 16-year-old developers. And they found one genius boy who solved one problem in 7 days, which their professional guys couldn't solve it in a month. Yeah. They sold this project to Americans, and they paid to this boy 1,000 euros for this assignment. And then, of course, boy being a boy, bought himself a PlayStation, blah, blah, blah things, got home, and father beat him up. Because his father told him, who will pay you 1,000 euros unless you're dealing drugs or something. This is the mindset my colleague was talking. People just don't understand. They don't recognize this talent with these kids and the proper education that they should give them. Because this father has a genius who will be worth, I don't know, 3, 4, 5,000 euros a month in 2-3 years, but he doesn't see it. He cannot understand what his boy is doing. These people don't understand it, and this somehow has to be tackled also.
Krešo?
Concerning the remote work, this is something that's very actual, current in King ICT. This year there will be great changes in the way we do our projects and organize our work. So I think one of the most important things to prepare your people in your company is the culture, because there are great opposition to this idea that part of the team will be in Ukraine or in Belarus or wherever, and the English speaking is actually a big issue for us. So it's not so much technological. These are easy things to solve. It's the culture and the what do you say? They say it's navike. Is the word. Habits of the people and the way they are used to work. This is the greatest change for us.
So our mentality is very different in comparison to other mentalities, or what's wrong?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, of course, you know, you've got teleconference, you can see, you can talk to anyone all over the world, but yeah, it's not the same. I mean, you know, it's not the same. We are humans. We have emotions. We connect on a level that's intimate when we are near each other. So you can truly build a team if it is on site. So once you build that team, then you can send it to other parts of the world. But if you're building a core of a new team, well, then, you know, fuck it, remote is not going to work. I truly believe that. So, you know, it's the same thing like what's happening with the millennial generation. Why you know, they're the generation that's taking the most pills for depression, because they're lacking human contact and human emotion, because everybody is talking to each other over the mobile phone. It's the same thing. So if you want to build a stable team, you need to have it on site. People need to connect, people need to fight, people need to express emotions, express anger, fear, you know, all joy, everything. And then once they throw all that out, then after a couple of years of bringing it together, then you can send them to different parts of the world to do their job there with the same methods.
So is it possible to outsource only, it is better to outsource only one developer or the whole team? What's your opinion about it? What's better, to have this intimacy inside of a team, or, well, how many heads do you need? Okay, 3 heads, I'll give you 3 heads, or the whole team?
So it highly depends on what you're trying to achieve. For example, when we talked about teams of 1,000, 2,000 people, I don't believe in that, for example. I think that mostly you need huge team because your processes are shit. So you don't have to employ 30 people with IQ above 150. But in the end, most of the teams and most of the theory says that your team should be between 5 and 6 people. And then if you're introducing larger teams, that means that you're introducing middle management. That middle management needs to be of high quality if you're going to be building bigger teams. The same thing with remote teams. So remote teams are challenging, but if you ever read a book from anyone who's really famous, do you really care where he comes from? Or can you just judge the book and the quality of writing just by reading it? The same goes with code. I can go to GitHub and read somebody's code, and I'm going to say, okay, I love this guy. I love him. And I can work with somebody just next to me, and he can write such a shitty code, it's unbelievable. So it highly depends. If I'm building friendship, and if I'm building teams in a way that I want to build a core team, like Robert said, yes, I definitely want to feel them, connect with them. But if I want a professional who's going to build me something in 3 months, I don't care. He can live wherever he wants. But basically, I see a push, I see a commit. And then I do code review, me or somebody else from within my team. And then we say, oh man, this is good. I don't care. I don't care where he lives. So if you're asking, are you going to outsource the whole team? So if you can't read what the team is doing, it's really hard to build trust. And that means that the only thing that you can do is you can call them to work with you and build trust by working with them. But if you can follow what they're doing, basically if you have Jira or whatever you're using, or if you're following Git commits and the things they produce are amazing, like reading books, really high quality books, then you don't care. But the team in the end should be between 5 to 6 people. And that's something that you can manage. If you're outsourcing like 50 people somewhere there, who's going to manage that? Who's going to be the one who's going to say, okay, they're doing a good job? You're probably going to take somebody from Croatia and going to send him there, and then he's going to work with them, and he's going to come back to you and he's going to say, okay, it makes sense. These guys work good.
Krešo?
From my point of view, one of the biggest factors and obstacles is commitment. Because from personal experience, when the project went to shit and you need to throw yourself on the bomb, I didn't do it for the project, I didn't do it for the money, I didn't do it for the fame, I did it for the people around me. I did it for my project manager, who was my friend, I did it for my colleagues, my team, who I was leading. And I don't know if it's even possible to get that kind of commitment from someone you never met, you never saw him, you communicate over Slack or Skype or whatever, and he is committed to his own company, not to me or to my team. And this is the biggest obstacle from my point of view, which we will have to find a way to deal with.
So this is exactly the thing I was talking about. Unfortunately, most of the managers, and I'm not talking about you here, but most of the managers in Croatia, I've been working around the Europol, so it's not different there. They still believe that you should have an effective way of seeing if somebody's working enough, if he's really committed to the cause. You know what I find to be really amazing is when I see somebody pushing something on Saturday at, I don't know, 11 p.m., and that something is of the highest quality, then I know he's committed. Then I know he's working. He can work 12 hours a day. I don't care. What I need is somebody who's going to tell me, I think I can do this, and I think I can do it within this time. And then after 3 times he does that, he's got my trust. So yes, of course, deadlines are coming, but most of the deadlines can be solved quite easily, and that's with the proper management control, not with developers. So developers are what's going to happen, they're going to be burnt out. And then you've lost everything. So in a way, you should be building trust, not with your developers, but with your management, middle management. So if they tell you something can be done within this time, then they should be responsible for it. And it's not going to help if we have sprints every 2 weeks and for like the last 3 days of every sprint, we're killing ourselves. Just saying that basically what I want to see, for example, is if he's going to be a remote worker, I want to see that if he told me he's going to do it by then, I don't care if he's going to spend the day somewhere else, running through the forest, but it needs to be done by then. That's more or less it.
Okay. So Domagoj.
Hi. I mean, I've been listening to my colleagues very carefully, and there is another dimension to the question of problem of distributed teams. Distributed teams are reality today. People develop software. 2 people, sitting in Belgrade, 2 people in Zagreb, 2 people in Zurich. I don't know. They are a team, but are they a team? Are they a bunch of individuals who work 14 hours, commit at midnight, or they are a team? That's the question. So, I mean, I've seen a very interesting thing in our distributed teams. So, people, I do agree with the colleague who says that people need to meet. You have to have people together, because one of the main tools that we have together today for distributed teams are pull requests. So we were starting a new team with new people, and we heard that 2 Ukrainian guys will come to our team, work with us, and they were notorious. Why? Because these guys give you 200 comments per pull request. Ooh, they are dragons, they are terrible persons. And then we put them together into a room, everybody meet up, and it was all lovely in the end. So the question is that it's very easy to be harsh and comment in someone's code if you haven't seen that person. But once you meet the person, okay, the comments are in place, but you give a different tone to them, so they are more polite. Like you say, okay, this is not good. You don't say, oh, this is shit, you don't know shit. You say, this is not good, please correct it like this. And this is how you create a team. You take a little bit of, possible conflict out of it, put some politeness into it, and, create people that, you just create atmosphere between people.
Okay.
Our experience is mixed, I would say. We had some very bad experiences with working with the international teams, especially from India. But what is always important that you keep the core competences in-house, let's say like this. The project management, the scoping of the project, the, let's say, customer relationships should always be kept and centralized in-house. But you can, of course, outsource certain parts of the work to the external workforce. But it's very, very important that that central control and central management is done by people in-house, because it doesn't work other way.
Okay, well, the time really flies. We have one last question before we introduce the audience. So how do you keep, at the end of the day, your best developers in your company? Because it's challenging nowadays to do that. What are your mechanisms to do that?
This is a very difficult question, but
sorry.
From our experience, people, people come for the company and leave for the manager and corporate culture. This is true.
Mm-hmm.
What's important is to keep this interrelationship, human relationships on the level, and let's say keep the team spirit in the team, and the rest will come by itself. Mm-hmm. Money is not the big motivation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I agree that we have reached the point where money is no longer. I hope that most of people in IT have reached the point where money is no longer a primary motivator. And once you lose that once you feel secure, then other questions, other things come into your perspective, and you want to have a nice feeling in the stomach when you go to work. So from my experience, what I try to personally do is to treat the not top people but all people like basically members of my family. So that doesn't mean that I am politically correct. That means that I am extremely politically incorrect. So when they do shit, then I say you did shit. When they do great, then I say you do great.
Straight to the head.
Because in family you should be honest. Yeah. But you don't close the door and you don't leave your family. You are honest, and then you talk about it. That's my approach.
So I think that the reality is that most of the developers are going to be bored after like 2 to 3 years. So if you want to keep them in your house, I don't think you can do a lot. So I really don't try to do a lot. If they're happy, if they're working, that's good. If they're going to leave, look, I can't do a lot about it. But the important thing is that if you know that most of your team is going to be leaving, and they probably will, IT is amazing, and now everybody's giving a lot of money, and you're probably going to leave, and that's okay. But then you need to make sure that when he leaves, you've got Confluence or whatever, and that you've got documentation and things like that. So what you don't want to do is you want to destroy your company by depending too much on a few like superstars. So it's within your culture that basically you should not produce superstars, and then you're not going to be afraid of losing these top developers. And in the end, come on, if you're so good, and if you want, you're going to end up in Google and Amazon, and I can't fight it. I will never ever be able to give you $250,000 a year. I can't. So yeah, I don't do a lot to keep them.
Kresha?
I have an anecdote that happened about a month ago. A colleague of ours.
A little bit louder, sorry.
A colleague of ours was about to give us his notice, 2 weeks notice, 1 month's notice, and he already made all the arrangements. And it came time to send the email to his boss that he's leaving, and he couldn't click send. He just couldn't do it because of the culture and because of the team he's in. He felt part of it. We had a couple of heartfelt talks with him before he left. And he decided to stay. It wasn't about pay, it wasn't about the project, it wasn't about anything. It was just that he felt a part of our company and he couldn't leave. And I'm very proud of that. It's rare, but it actually happens, yeah.
Domagoj.
Just an anecdote for the end. As the colleague says, yes, I mean, if somebody is that good and he wants to leave to Amazon or to Google, you can't fight it. But you can be proud of him. I mean, yes. And that's why we had that experience, and I'm happy that we are a company that Google poaches employees.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much. And now the audience, do you have any questions? Really, no questions? We call, okay. Please, Jovana.
Thank you. Thank you for the inspiring answers to Alex's questions. I would like to ask you, it's quite a common thing now when we speak about the IT industry in the region. We know that developers leave, they change places often, it's fine, we all agree that that's okay, but what do you do inside of your companies about their career paths? So what happens with a developer who just is bored with coding and he wants to do something else after 10 years of like typing code? That's it. Thanks.
Do you have a favorite? Yeah, okay.
So I think that the career path of a developer is limited. In the end, you become a senior, and then maybe somebody gives you an architect or whatever they're going to call you. And then if you ain't going to go to management, you can't do a lot. For management, you've got bigger companies, and then you're basically going to be building yourself as a manager in a bigger company. But if you want to stay a geek, then you can't do a lot. You need to open your own company. So, and then you're going to take all the risk, right? So yes, the return might be huge. But in the end, if you're 40 years old and you've been working 15 years with Java and you feel bored as hell and you want to change, in Croatia you have what? I think we could agree maybe 4 or 5 companies where you can build your career path in management. Otherwise, you're going to build your own company, you're going to be flying around Europe and the USA, you're going to try to do sales and you're going to fail and so on. And then you're going to see after 2 to 3 years, I like it or not. And then you're going to go back to development and you're going to be a happy senior developer till the end of your life. Yeah, I mean, or you're going to succeed and you're going to create a huge company of your own, and then you're going to have the same problems with the people beneath you.
And it really depends what kind of a career are we talking about. Are we talking about, corporate ladder kind of career where you just want to become a bigger boss and be like, the CEO at the end of the 5-year period? That is something that cannot be done in small teams. But if we are talking about technical experience, then in my former company, about 70%, okay, maybe not 70, 60% of work was extremely boring. And you needed to manage that, and you had the top people doing boring job. So what do? You give them ability, and you are not a shitty person. You give them ability to do extra what their mind finds interesting. So if they have to do the boring job, then if they have something on their own that their mind perceives as interesting, then let them do it. It's on their own. They can code in the company, their own code for their own size startups, whatever. I don't care, as long as they feed their mind with interesting stuff. And, hopefully that will not go over 80% of time and they will say, I leave. And if they do, that's fine as well. Because obviously you just stretched the period where they work for you. You cannot, there are no negative things that you can do to keep the person. You can, what will you do? What kind of contract will you have with the person to not leave? That just creates negative energy. So,
regarding my organization, we have several programs for employees. Usually we define a path for each employee. Should they go to the management path or to the expert path, to the local career or to international career? And of course then people develop in a certain streams, certain ways. So there are, let's say, lateral movement, horizontal movement possibilities, but in the end, usually it's expected that everybody will leave. And me personally, I don't want people in my department who will work there 20 years, because this type of people are not usually the mindset I desire in my team. So I know that their life expectancy in my team is maximum 5 to 7 years. And after that, I want to see them on some top management positions around or top expert positions around. And this is absolutely fine with me. And it's my job to ensure that the business is working fine and that I ensure their replacements. If I don't do that, this is my problem, not theirs. And I always encourage my people, go try better, progress in your career. Of course, this is expected from you. I never stopped anybody in my career. And stopping would, like colleague said, would be very counterproductive on the whole team.
Thank you.
Okay, Jovana, thank you for a very interesting question. There are several aspects to this question. The first one is, like as colleague says, okay, what if you are held bored with Java? That's technological boredom. You're fed up with one technology, you want to change something, so you can change into other areas, start doing single-page applications, go to mobile development, or what do developers do? Developers basically, what the joke is that we introduce bugs into existing software. So after 20 years of introducing bugs into existing software, you can change the career path and still do coding, but you start writing automation tests. Preventing bugs from reaching customers, so you are on the other side of the line now. These are all technological changes that you can introduce in your company for people. Then we also mentioned the turning into managers. That obviously there is that career path, and not many companies are actually able to offer this to everybody. There is a limited number of positions at the top, so the pyramid does exist for a reason. And then of course, there is a third aspect also for a career path changes. The Agile introduced that, so I've seen some developers turning into very good product owners. This is an entirely new field for them. After, coding applications for 10, 15 years, now you are one who is designing them basically. Or you realize that, okay, I'm actually very good in dealing with people, I'm going to be a professional Scrum Master. So I think that, companies can offer very, very wide range of career paths to their employees if they just want to be a little bit flexible and innovative in that regard.
Okay, sure.
This is a question that's very important to King, especially this year. We are actually currently pivoting around this problem, and we are introducing a personal approach to career development. We are going to create let's say, another level of management, startup management, let's say it. There are a small group of people that will have their coach, will take care of their professional development, develop their competencies, send them to educations, and guide them to the process from they came from the college and to the point that they become a senior developer. And it's a long road ahead of them, but they need guidance. You just can't leave them on their own to develop themselves, and it's quite important. Yeah.
Okay. So we reached the end of our panel discussion. It was a very big pleasure to talk to you guys and to include the audience and to present yourselves in front of the Javantura audience. So thank you much once again, and I wish you big success in your private and business life, and I hope we see you next year also. Thank you so much.